Thank you very much for inviting me with these wonderful speakers that you have here. Well, the first thing I want to say is that it is not a small thing that the international laws are being trashed by this awful military exhibition of the United States. We're talking about not only the Charter of the UN, Articles 1, Articles 2, we're talking about CELAC, who declared the whole area, the whole of Latin America, a peace zone. You were talking about the UN Convention of the Seas, which is really important, Article 111, which means that what they are doing right now, according to this convention, is simply homicide, intentional homicide. And then, of course, the Rome of the Rome Statute. Now, why do I say this is important? Because all of a sudden, the countries of, especially of the Caribbean, are quite united, with the exception of Trinidad, of course, because they see that they are also being threatened by this. And so we have quite a lot of solidarity there. The solidarity that has come is quite amazing. For the first time in 25 years, I am looking at articles in the mainstream press that are, I wouldn't say that they are sort of cheering Venezuela, but certainly much more on Venezuelan side, because they see this appalling a break of order, really. The United States simply killing people. And one of the things that I have to underline with respect to this is that Venezuela has right now a wonderful solidarity, not only of the Caribbean, which are small countries, but of Mexico, of Colombia, and of Brazil. And if you are thinking that you are going to invade Venezuela when the surrounding countries are not on your side, then you better think again of what's going to happen to that invading military. So one thing that I sort of believe is that the captains of those ships should also be indicted when we indict, the Washington players such as Rubio and Miller, along with Trump. The captains should be told that they also are going to be on the dock accused of crimes against humanity and war crimes, because since Nuremberg, the following orders excuse doesn't fit. And I think this is a very good moment to say that. Why? Because there is a fracture in the United States military, something that I had in my lifetime I'd never seen. That awful harangue that the joker of Ministry of War, so-called, and Trump did, who humiliated their top military leaders. I've never seen this before in my life. I don't think anybody has. Really fractured U.S. military. So they're very unhappy about this. They're very unhappy because out of the mouth of Trump, it said, you, the military, the U.S. military, are going to be used against the citizens of the United States. In fact, you can use the Democratic-run cities as a military exercise. Go in there and kill people and train your people with this. This went down like a lead balloon in the United States. And to put this to the end, or I would say to the beginning, the top commander of the of all of these ships, which was Admiral Halsey, resigned. And he shouldn't have resigned. He should have been there for 4 years. And this was a clear message that he was not happy of using these tremendous missiles to kill poor, unarmed civilians in little boats with outboard motors, a little bit bigger than canoes. This is outrageous. So this is a moment of quite fragility for the United States with respect to its military. Now compare that to the Venezuelan military. The Venezuelan Bolivarian military is, when they march on the streets, they are adored, flowers thrown at them, and vivas. Why? Because they know that they took that oath, that Bolivar, saying, our arms will never be against our own people. So I think it was Sira that mentioned and also Carlos, this unity of the civilians with the military is very strong in Venezuela. And in a matter of 2 days, as soon as this threat came, the militia went from 5 million to 8 million. This is extraordinary. It's funny because my very old elder sister, who's in her 90s, said, oh yes, if they come, I'm going to go out with my little kitchen knife. So people are aware of this threat, but at the same time, they are calm, like Sira has said. They are quite confident in all the preparations that the government and military have done for their defense. The other thing that I think it is very important to point out is that, well, first of all, remember the Bay of Pigs and remember Vietnam. Just because the United States has technological superiority, obviously they do, but with a fractured civil society, because the United States right now, as you saw, 7 million people on the streets protesting, and this fractured military, vis-a-vis a country that is so united. Hinterlasses, which is the foremost pollster in Venezuela, says that, well, it's 94% of Venezuelans who reject this invasion or threat to invasion. And also about 87, 88 support, indicting people who support this invasion. But I would say that one of the great things that Venezuela has had on its side is its superb diplomacy. They have worked incessantly to obtain the backing of the majority of the countries of the world. The Venezuelan ambassador, Samuel Moncap, twice has been elected and is right now the vice president of the General Assembly of the United Nations. So if Venezuela is attacked, I don't mean this in a bad way because poor Hussein, but Maduro is not a Hussein. There will be people coming and countries coming to Venezuela's aid and individuals to help, because it is obviously such a one-sided and obvious, I would say, disruption of law and decency. Because as one poor Trinidadian who's saying, look, that they had killed his grandson, I think it was, he said, they're killing poor people with missiles. And this is what they're doing. This is what the United States is doing. And I hope they will be indicted as criminals, as war criminals. But the most thing I would like to say is that Venezuela is not alone, that there are many, that it is surrounded right now. Even Lula, who comes and goes, has offered yesterday to mediate with Trump and Venezuela. I think that would be a very good thing. And the one last thing I would like to say, that I'm very sorry. I live in Canada. We have a government that is also fighting Trump because Trump has wanted to overtake Canada. And yet Canada does not look at Latin America. It is looking towards every place else in the world, towards Europe and Asia. And the only thing that is looking towards is some trade, some commercial deal with Mexico. But it is just as it feels for the first time that Canadian sovereignty is being threatened by the United States. Canada has not taken any action to realize that Venezuela's sovereignty is also being very much more even than Canada, being threatened by the United States. And I think that Canada needs to look towards its own hemisphere and not have a blind eye to what is happening in South America. Unfortunately, the foreign policy of Canada it revolves too much around self-interest and trade. and is not looking further as to the political and the cultural and the humane issues that are involved. I would also say that I think that what has to be done is a great defense of international law, because without it, this is the law of the jungle, the law of whoever has the biggest ship and the biggest cannon. And this is, I think, what has brought a lot of people on the side of Venezuela, people that before had not even thought of this. I salute the Venezuelan government, the Venezuelan military, the Venezuelan militias, because they have not faltered. They have not taken one step back. They have said, we will defend our land. That courage and that organization that they have shown is tremendous. Also, as a Venezuelan, I thank China and Russia and Iran and especially Colombia and Mexico and Brazil for their solidarity in these dire moments. And thank you all for your solidarity, which means so much to all of us.
I'm Michael Hudson. I'm appearing here for the International Manifesto Group. If you like this video and ones like it, please subscribe. For more information, go to the address on the screen.